Ah yes, the happiest countries. Who has cracked the code to eternal bliss? Let's find out, starting from the bottom and working our way up. And no, before you ask, the United States isn't on this list. Shocking, I know. Number 10, Australia, land down under, home of the shrimp on the Barbie, the boomerang, and Steve Irwin's crocodile death roll. These Aussies must be doing something right to crack the top 10. Maybe it's all that sunshine and sand between their toes. Or maybe they're just too busy wrestling deadly animals to be unhappy. Though I have to wonder, do they ever get sick of hearing the same old jokes about their accent and slang? Throw another shrimp on the Barbie, mate. Rolls eyes. And let's talk about their wildlife for a second. You've got spiders the size of dinner plates, snakes that can kill you faster than you can say, "G'day, mate," and jellyfish that make you wish you were dead. Yet somehow, these crazy Aussies are still smiling. Must be all that Vegemite they're eating. Speaking of which, who thought spreading yeast extract on toast was a good idea? That's like scraping the bottom of a beer barrel and calling it breakfast. But hey, at least they get to live in one of the most beautiful and diverse countries on the planet. You've got the Great Barrier Reef, which is basically nature's greatest flex, the outback, where everything tries to kill you but looks gorgeous doing it. And cities like Sydney, where you can pay your life savings to live in a shoebox with an opera house view. And don't even get me started on their weird love affair with swimming pools next to the ocean. Like, you've got the entire Pacific right there, but no, let's build a pool right next to it. That's like installing a tanning bed on the beach, but I guess when you've got great whites patrolling your shores like aquatic bouncers, a pool starts to make sense. Number 9, Switzerland. The neutral watchmaking, neutral chocolate-loving, neutral fondue-eating, did I mention neutral? Swiss. Now I know what you're thinking. How can a country that's so dull and orderly possibly be happy? Well, my friends, turns out having your stuff together and not being in a perpetual state of chaos is the key to contentment. Let's talk about Swiss efficiency for a second. These people have their trains running so precisely you could perform surgery by their schedule. And not just any surgery, Swiss watch repair surgery. Chuckles, if a train is 30 seconds late, they probably declare a national emergency. The conductor has to write a formal apology letter to every passenger in all 4 national languages while yodeling. Speaking of languages, these folks casually switch between German, French, Italian, and Romansh like they're changing TV channels. And somehow they all understand each other, except when it comes to deciding which cheese goes best in fondue. That debate can start civil wars in otherwise peaceful Swiss villages. And let's talk about their bunkers. These people have enough nuclear shelters to house their entire population. That's right, while the rest of us are planning our weekend brunches, the Swiss are planning for the apocalypse. Every citizen is required by law to have access to a bunker. It's like they're saying, we may be neutral, but we're neutrally prepared for World War III. But hey, at least they get to live in those gorgeous alpine landscapes and eat all the cheese and chocolate their hearts desire. Though I bet they get tired of people assuming they all wear lederhosen and yodel for a living. Hey, Switzerland, you're not Austria, you know. Although with those mountains, can you blame them for yodeling? It's probably the only way to communicate with your neighbor across the valley without using your phone's roaming data. Number 8, Luxembourg, the banking capital of Europe, where ATMs dispense gold bars instead of cash, and children learn to count by practicing with stock portfolios. This tiny country is so rich they probably use 50 euros notes as toilet paper. When your country is smaller than Rhode Island but has more banks than restaurants, you know something's up. These Luxembourgers live in a country so small, you can accidentally jog through 3 different nations during your morning run. But don't let the size fool you. They're compensating with their bank accounts. The average salary here is higher than most people's lottery dreams. They're so wealthy, their piggy banks have piggy banks. And talk about linguistic show-offs. Most Luxembourgers speak at least 4 languages. Luxembourgish, yes, that's a real language, French, German, and English. They switch between them faster than their bankers switch between offshore accounts. It's like they're playing linguistic gymnastics, while the rest of us are still trying to remember how to say thank you in Spanish. But the real kicker? Despite all this wealth, they still have some of the most reasonable real estate prices in Western Europe. Just kidding. A closet-sized apartment here costs more than a castle in Slovakia. But hey, at least they can pop over to Belgium or France for a quick weekend getaway. Not that they need the vacation time, what with all that bank interest rolling in. Number 7. Norway. Land of the Vikings, the Northern Lights, and an absolutely mind-numbing amount of oil wealth. These Norwegians must be living it up, am I right? Their sovereign wealth fund is so big, they could probably buy Amazon and still have enough left over for a few IKEA meatballs. Let's talk about their prison system for a second. Norwegian prisons look better than most American hotels. Seriously, their maximum security facilities have better amenities than my apartment. The inmates get flat-screen TVs, private bathrooms, and probably better Wi-Fi than you do. It's like they're running a chain of Nordic spa retreats for people who made bad life choices. And don't even get me started on their parental leave. They get like a year off, full pay, plus a bonus just for having the kid. Meanwhile, in America, you're lucky if you get 2 weeks and a pat on the back. Norwegian babies probably come out of the womb with a pension plan and a cabin in the fjords. Speaking of fjords, these geological show-offs are everywhere. It's like Mother Nature went through a Gothic architecture phase and just went nuts with the carving. Oh, you have mountains? That's cute. We have mountains that have been split apart and filled with water that's deeper than your student loan debt. Number 6. The Netherlands. Home of wooden shoes, windmills, and an unhealthy obsession with tulips, these Dutch folks have managed to turn fighting the ocean into a national hobby. They're literally living below sea level because they looked at the ocean and said, "Nah, this is our land now." That's some next-level real estate development right there. Their cycling culture is so intense, babies probably learn to bike before they can walk. They've got more bikes than people, and their bike lanes are better maintained than most American highways. You haven't lived until you've seen a Dutch person carrying their groceries, 2 kids, a dog, and possibly their entire living room furniture on a bicycle. And let's talk about their height. The Dutch are the tallest people in the world, probably because they need to keep their heads above water level. They're so tall, they probably have to duck under their own windmills. Their national basketball team doesn't even need to jump to dunk. The Dutch approach to social issues is fascinating too. Their solution to everything seems to be just make it legal and tax it. Other countries spend billions fighting problems, while the Dutch are like, put it in a window, charge admission, and make it a tourist attraction. Out. Number 5. Israel. Talk about defying the odds. These folks took a piece of desert, turned it into a tech hub, and somehow managed to become one of the happiest nations while surrounded by neighbors who, well, let's just say, don't send them Christmas cards. They've got more startups per capita than anywhere else in the world. Silicon Valley, more like Silicon Wadi. Every other person you meet is either developing an app, founding a company, or inventing the next big thing in cybersecurity. Their LinkedIn profiles probably read CEO/founder/Chief Innovation Officer before they're out of high school. Israeli mothers have turned guilt-tripping into an Olympic sport. You don't call, you don't write, you don't invent the next billion-dollar app. And don't get me started on their military service. When most 18-year-olds worldwide are deciding which party to attend, Israeli teens are learning how to operate million-dollar military equipment. Number 4, Sweden, the land of ABBA, IKEA, and people so attractive it's actually kind of annoying. These Swedes have perfected the art of looking effortlessly cool while being disgustingly competent at everything. It's like they're all secretly competing for most well-adjusted human being awards. Their work-life balance is so good, they probably consider answering emails after 4 p.m. a human rights violation. 4-day work weeks, paid vacation that's longer than most American careers, unlimited sick days for when your aura feels slightly off-center. Check, check, and check. They've even got this thing called fika, mandatory coffee breaks, where you're basically required by law to eat pastries and gossip about your coworkers. And let's talk about their interior design obsession. Everything has to be minimalist, functional, and in neutral colors. Their homes look like they were decorated by Marie Kondo's even more organized Swedish cousin. If you own more than 3 colors, they probably revoke your citizenship. The Swedes are so environmentally conscious,
landfills are
they figured out how to recycle their
recycling.
They're so
into the
good
atmosphere.
at it. They actually import garbage
More
from
than
other
half
countries
of the world's waste,
because they've run out of their own
59% in
trash
fact,
to
ends up in
process.
to raw materials
Imagine
for heat energy.
being so
Sweden
efficient
received the
that
profit
you have
of
to borrow
almost
other people's
$100
mess
million.
to keep your recycling plants running. Number 3, Iceland, a country where the phone book lists people by their first names, because apparently last names are too mainstream. These volcanic party animals live on an island that's basically one big geological mood swing, where the ground could literally split open at any moment. And they're like, cool, let's build a spa there. Their dating app includes a feature that checks if you're related to your potential match, because in a country of 360,000 people, accidentally dating your cousin is a real concern. It's like Ancestry.com meets Tinder. Sorry, can't swipe right. We share a great-great-grandmother. The Icelandic language hasn't changed much since the Vikings, which means modern Icelanders can read 1,000-year-old texts like they're yesterday's tweets. They've got words that sound like someone fell asleep on a keyboard but mean something oddly specific, like the feeling you get when you realize you forgot to bring a towel to the geothermal pool. And speaking of pools, these people are obsessed with their hot springs. It's like their national pastime is sitting in naturally boiling water while discussing elves. Yes, elves. A significant portion of Icelanders either believe in elves or won't deny their existence. They've even delayed construction projects because they might disturb elf habitats. It's like their version of an environmental impact study. Includes a section on mythological creature displacement. Number 2, Denmark, the country that invented Lego, which means they're responsible for all that foot pain you've experienced at 3 a.m. These guys have turned coziness into a national brand with this thing called hygge, which is basically their excuse to wear sweaters and drink hot chocolate year-round while feeling smugly superior about it. Danish children are basically free-range. They leave their babies in strollers outside cafes and restaurants, which would get you arrested in pretty much any other country. But in Denmark, it's just Tuesday. Their parenting philosophy seems to be, hey, they'll figure it out. And somehow, it works. Their obsession with design is so intense, even their trash bins look like they belong in a modern art museum. Everything has to be aesthetically pleasing, ergonomic, and preferably made of sustainable materials harvested by fair trade organic unicorns. The Danes have mastered the art of the soft brag. They're so humble about their achievements, it's actually kind of aggressive. Oh, this little country? We just have the highest quality of life, best work-life balance, and most efficient renewable energy systems. But please tell me about your 60-hour work week. Number 1, it's Finland, the undisputed champions of happiness, which is ironic because they also invented the word kalsarikanit, getting drunk at home alone in your underwear. These magnificent introverts have turned social awkwardness into an art form and somehow ended up happier than everyone else. Finnish people are so comfortable with silence, they probably consider small talk a form of harassment. Their idea of a wild party is sitting in a 200-degree sauna, beating themselves with birch branches, and then jumping into a frozen lake. And they do this for fun. Their education system is so good, teachers are treated like rock stars. Finnish kids don't start school until they're 7, barely have homework, and still consistently outperform everyone else. It's like they've cracked the code to education, while the rest of the world is still trying to figure out how to use a calculator. And let's not forget their bizarre competitions: wife carrying, air guitar, mobile phone throwing. It's like they got bored with normal sports and decided to turn their daily activities into Olympic events. Oh, you want a marathon? That's cute! I just carried my wife through an obstacle course while she hung upside down on my back. And there you have it, guys, the top 10 happiest countries in the world. If you need me, I'll be filling out my Finnish citizenship application while practicing my silent sitting skills and learning how to pronounce Eyjafjallajökull just in case Iceland has a backup opening. Though with my luck, I'll probably end up in the country that ranked dead last, wherever that is. Actually, you know what? Let's not talk about that. It's probably best to end on a high note, preferably one from ABBA.